Labour have accused the Tories of failing pensioners. Who'd have thought it? In what they call 14 years of economic failure. They say last week's budget will leave 8 million tax-paying pensioners an average of £1,000 a year worse off.
Well, we're now joined by Shadow Postmaster General Jonathan Ashworth. Good morning, Jonathan. Why do Labour feel pensioners have been forgotten about?
Well, not only are pensioners paying more in tax under the tax-raising budgets of Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt, there's a fundamental issue which I think pensioners need to be aware of. Rishi Sunak is proposing a £46 billion unfunded tax plan to abolish national insurance. Now that severs the link between your contributions and your state pension, because you get a state pension based on your national insurance contributions. So Rishi Sunak needs to answer the question, how will somebody qualify for the state pension? Or is his £46 billion plan going to be funded by borrowing, which puts pressure on mortgages? Again, will put mortgages up as it did under Liz Truss. Or thirdly, is he actually just going to introduce a new merged income and national insurance tax, which means pensioners will be paying tax on their pension and their savings? So I think pensioners' savings, pensioners' incomes, even the state pension as we know it, are at risk with 5 more years of the Conservatives.
This becomes a weekly thing, and every week my mouth drops further open. Last week, you stood on that very piece of grass and said to me that the Labour Party wanted to get people off the dole, not the ones, by the way, who are mentally ill or are, suffering a disability, but you didn't, as a party, believe that people should be allowed to get benefits for nothing. Today, talk about parking your tanks on Rishi Sunak's lawn, you're now sticking up for 8 million pensioners. And I'm not saying the Labour Party hasn't in the past, but that was proper Tory ground, if we're honest. Can you explain, not negating anything you've said, I was talking to my father-in-law about this over the weekend, triple lock, though, which you've guaranteed to continue, has done pensioners a good deal, hasn't it? Can you explain that to the viewers and listeners, please?
Well, the triple lock is, of course, whether you raise the pension year by year, whether in line with earnings growth, in line with inflation, or if both of those in some years can be low by 2.5%. But it's important that pensioners have a decent income in retirement, and it's important that today's people who are working and contributing through their NICs, their national insurance, or as my mum would say, paying her stamps, or that's what she used to say, she paid her stamps, that they know they've got that foundation of the state pension to look forward to. And of course, you don't get taxed on your state pension, or you're not supposed to, but because the Conservatives have frozen the thresholds, more and more pensioners, because where they've got a state pension and perhaps a little bit of savings, or they've got a works pension, are being dragged into paying tax under the Conservatives. And if the Tories get their way with this £46 billion unfunded commitment, that either puts the economy in peril, like Liz Truss did, or it means a new tax on pensioners' savings. So I am raising the alarm for Britain's pensioners today of the Tory threat to their incomes.
Jonathan, moving on to a different topic now. The Conservatives are in trouble over one of their donors this week. Can you just tell our audience what kind of checks Labour put in place to their donors?
Well, I'm not involved in fundraising for the Labour Party, but there will be checks in place. There will be proper research done when anybody wants to offer money to the Labour Party. And I do think, though, given the frankly offensive, reprehensible comments from this individual, that Rishi Sunak should hand the £10 million back. At the moment, he wants his £10 million to pay for Tory leaflets and Tory adverts and so on, that every candidate will be putting out. Well, I think he should do the decent thing and hand that money back.
I don't think anybody would disagree with that, but I think the question's relevant. I know you're going to say it's not your bag, but we must look at donations across the political spectrum. How do we not know that money is given to all political parties from individuals who either have an agenda or perhaps have beliefs or feelings that the majority of the country would disagree with? I guess what we're saying is, are there any controls? Are there any guidelines over that? You've had an enormously successful year in terms of raising money. We know that. We've read that. What checks do the Labour Party make on the checks coming through the door?
Well, they will do checks. I mean, first of all, you have to be a citizen on the the electoral roll and things like that. I'm sure if you wanted to give money to the Labour Party, they'd want to check the things that you've said. But look, it may well be that the Conservative Party were not aware of this individual's comments. I mean, that does happen in life. Of course it does. But the key thing is, once they have been brought to the attention of the Tory party, they should hand the money back. That's the right thing to do.
You're saying that if the Labour Party were to discover that one of their donors had made racist comments in the past, you would absolutely hand the money that was received by that person back?
Yeah, I mean, if things emerge, you have to take a decision and act appropriately. Look, all right, I'll just give you a very quick example, and it is embarrassing for the Labour Party. Look, we had a candidate in a by-election, 2 or 3 weeks ago in Rochdale who said something offensive. We had to suspend that candidate. It meant we didn't have a candidate in the end in a by-election, but sometimes you've got to do the right thing, even if it's a political problem for you. And I know, look, I'm sure he's not, handing back £10 million is not... I can understand why they don't want to do it. I can understand why the people printing their leaflets and, preparing their adverts don't want to hand this money back. I get that. But the right thing to do in this circumstance is give the money back, and Rishi Sunak should do that today.
Can't let you go without the other thing that almost sent me into combustion mode at 6:20 this morning. Forget the political divide here. Let's talk facts. So, the government of the day's idea of dealing with our immigration problem is a plan called Rwanda. Let's not have a discussion about Rwanda, but let's just put to you a Labour front bench. If they win power, you'll be on the front bench, allegedly, or hopefully for you, right? Today, a government plan that says that if you failed to get asylum in this country because you are not entitled to it, not a refugee, before anybody tells me, you are an illegal immigrant, we're going to give you, in a cost of living crisis, when people can't afford to do things, we're going to give you £3,000. You probably haven't got a bank account, so we might have to give you in nifties, that's 50s, in your pocket. Jonathan Ashworth, what the hell is wrong with this country, man? That's ridiculous. What does that say to working men and women?
I want to put my head in my hands.
You can.
And it's a shambles, isn't it? Well, I can, but there's a fella taking photos, and then there'll be a picture of me with me looking, with my head in my hands everywhere. So, yeah, exactly. So I'm not going to walk into that trap, but that's what I want to do. But I mean, look, what is going on? I mean, you've got to have a serious plan to go after these gangs. We're spending a fortune. Not only on, or the government's proposing to spend a fortune, only on the Rwanda scheme, but this sounds to me like they're admitting that their Rwanda scheme won't work. So they're going to pay the people to go to Rwanda.
Hardly a deterrent, is it?
I think it's a shambles.
And Jonathan, just really quickly, just really quickly and succinctly, what would Labour do differently?
Well, Yvette Cooper, she's put forward a plan to really go after the criminal gangs, the criminal smuggling gangs. You've got to use the laws, like the laws that we use to go after terrorists. We should use those laws to go after these criminal gangs smuggling people across the channel. That's one of the things that Yvette Cooper's been talking about.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan Ashworth, for
joining
us this morning.